It took me all day to cut this hole. I wanted to clean up the cabling on my desk. I'm actually redoing my office right now. While everything was apart, I thought that that would be a really great opportunity for me to drill this hole in the middle of my desk that I've always wanted for cable management. I wanted to drop down the cables right behind my monitor just to keep the desk looking clean. Cables are everywhere. I couldn't safely drill with everything attached. So I took this rare opportunity. I went to the hardware store and I grabbed a saw drill bit in order to perform this cut. I ended up seeing that there was a bunch of undersided double stick tape that I had used at various locations to put, like a switch out on there and to put a couple of different, appliances, a power strip. Ended up going back to the hardware store, grabbed the scraper, came back, and got to work. Luckily, I had some cleaner nearby with some rubbing alcohol mixed in, so I was able to get the gunk off of the table relatively easy once I scraped off the majority of the material. I then went to open up the box for my saw drill bit, and I realized that the saw drill bit couldn't just affix to the drill. There's an adapter that you need to buy in order to purchase and thread the saw drill bit onto the drill. I had no idea that this was a thing. I thought it just came with it. Luckily, my neighbors were outside and I was able to run over to one of them, get the appropriate adapter that I needed in order to make my cut. At that point, I realized that if I just left the cut bare, it would be really noticeable. Back to the hardware store, so this is my third time, and picked up some wood stain. It matches the table. It doesn't look finished. I only applied one thin coat. I wanted it to look like the other holes. I didn't want it to look like overly done or whatever. So mission accomplished. I was able to cut my hole. So what is a full kit and why should you care? What it means to have a full kit is basically a plan or just to know all of the elements, all the pieces that you need in order to accomplish a goal. So for instance, when I was getting ready to cut my hole, if I had listed out all of the items that I might need, look at the job holistically and said, oh, I need to drill. Is there any adapters that are needed? I need to clean off the gunk from the underside of my desk. Is there any tools I need to do that? Just looking at the end-to-end workflow and process as a whole, and then making the trip once to the store, I would have established my full kit in the beginning, or my list, my shopping list in the beginning. And I would have gone to the store, collected all of the pieces that I needed, brought them home, made one trip, had everything that I needed, and then completed the job in a shorter period of time. We do this all the time professionally, when you're developing software or when you're trying to move a project forward. It is helpful to identify all the components that are needed before moving on to the next phase. We do this constantly. It's like, what do we need to have before we sit down and start coding? Or what are all the elements that we need to do in order before we move on to the next phase? I do all this stuff all the time in my professional career, but it's just funny how when I get to my personal life, those skills didn't necessarily transfer. So I will be using that moving forward. And any project that I do, I want to establish what is the full kit for this project, write down all of the pieces that I need in order to complete that project, make hopefully one store trip, come back and complete the task in an efficient manner.